Fitting Fitness In. I'm a personal trainer and nutrition specialist, and welcome to Get Healthy with Holly. Today I have a guest, Dorene Bowe-Shulman, and Dorene is an acupuncturist in Acton. Welcome, Dorene.
Thank you.
And a little bit about Dorene. Dorene holds a doctorate in acupuncture and is a faculty member at the New England School of Acupuncture at the MCPHS University. We're not going to get into those initials. She has a general practice with a focus on oncology in Acton, Mass. She has a postgraduate training in oncology acupuncture from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York, and holds professional certification from the National Association of Hospice and Palliative Care Acupuncturists. And I met Dorene through her work at the Healing Garden in Harvard, Mass. That's a cancer support center that I sit on on the board of trustees, and Dorene works with Healing Garden clients. So Dorene, let's start with your work at the Healing Garden and talk about how acupuncture can help someone who's going through cancer and cancer treatments.
Sure. Well, Holly, thank you for having me here today to talk to you and let everybody know a little bit more about acupuncture. So acupuncture for people going through cancer and cancer treatments is very much focused on the side effects of the treatment. Right? They're getting treatment from Western professionals, and as an acupuncturist, we are helping to make that treatment go a little bit more smoothly. Well, in particular, we're helping with side effects like you hear about nausea, fatigue, chemo brain, neuropathy, and sometimes some pain. So acupuncture is often used like before the treatments or after the treatments, and for many people, once they finish treatments, I and we as acupuncturists help see them afterwards to help them, kind of live their life as best they can going forward.
That's great. And I didn't realize that it was also for neuropathy, because I know at the Healing Garden they have the sensory garden where they have that kind of like a labyrinth with the river stone, the smooth stones that the clients will walk on barefoot to help stimulate the nerves in their feet.
Yes, sort of like getting the nerves to start kind of waking up and getting the right signals, like to the brain and back down again. And acupuncture is working kind of in a little different perspective, but again, also helping to get the nerves in what is typically like the legs, the feet, and sometimes the fingers, to start working more typically again.
That's great. So that would also work for people who have diabetes who may have neuropathy.
It can, and in Chinese medicine we definitely view people individually. So people who come in with neuropathy from chemo is a little different than people coming in from neuropathy from diabetes. But yes, I have worked with some people who have the diabetic neuropathy as well.
Great. And so so how often would somebody come in for acupuncture treatments?
So continuing on the line with working on cancer patients, I try to see people weekly or as they're going through the treatment. And sometimes that's possible, sometimes it isn't, depending how someone's feeling, depending what their treatment schedule is like. But to have some kind of regularity with treatment is great. And as they start to feel better, typically after the treatment is done or if there's a gap in treatment, we taper that off and make the frequency a little less. For someone coming in, I'll say more of a garden variety patient, maybe someone who's not going through cancer treatment, but someone who has digestive issues or other kinds of pain. In general, what I say is typically weekly appointments for 4 to 6 weeks are helpful. And then again, as the patient starts to feel better, we make it maybe every other week for a month or two, and then start spreading them out further and further, where ideally people will come in for tune-ups, just like you get your teeth cleaned regularly, you get the oil change in your car regularly. People might come in every few months, maybe 3-4 times a year to get their acupuncture tune-up.
Right, and so I can say, because I am a client of Dorene, I go to Dorene for my seasonal allergies. So I try to go in March, before everything starts, although this year it started very early, these allergies. And I'm very susceptible, so it doesn't take a lot for me. But I will say I love them. I love going. Yes, there are needles, and we'll show you the needles. Don't get scared. But the whole process, I go in, I lie on a table. She has this nice mellow music. She'll put the needles in where it is appropriately for seasonal allergies, maybe little sleep issues. And then she puts a nice little heat lamp on my feet so my feet don't get cold. That's one of the best parts. And then turns the lights off, and then I just kind of lie there for 30, 40 minutes. And to me, it's like a meditation. It's like a total relaxation thing. Once those needles are in, you don't really feel it. It's a little prick when they go in, but then you don't feel them. And so you're just kind of relaxing.
Exactly.
I love that part. It's like, oh, I have 30, 40 minutes in my schedule this week that I can relax.
And I like to tell people that relaxation is the #1 side effect of acupuncture.
Yeah.
In general, there really aren't, serious side effects of acupuncture where there are with, other kinds of modalities out there. But for acupuncture, usually people are going to come out, no matter what their issue is or what's brought them in the door, they leave just that much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
That's nice. Okay, so what are some of the other benefits? So we have relaxation, we have some side effect, reducing side effects of medication. What are some of the other reasons somebody may go to the acupuncturist?
Well, the #1 reason, at least in the United States, that people go for acupuncture is for pain, and particularly back pain. And also some knee pain, shoulder pain, and part of that is that's what's gotten kind of out in the news a little bit, of that acupuncture is very helpful for those, which is very true. But acupuncture is also great for digestive issues, women's health issues, headaches and migraines. I've actually have some people who have come to see me who have been referred by their neurologist. The neurologist has almost felt like they have run the course of what they can on their medications and said, well, I hear acupuncture has been helpful. I've read some studies, because there are studies on acupuncture helping different issues. And they've come in for acupuncture that has really helped them as well.
Wow. So are you seeing that medical doctors are becoming more apt to refer?
Definitely. And I would say part of that is because there's more research being done, more scientific research, which is what doctors often follow for their own, treatments, which is, so it's great that that's being done. But also, I think as doctors are getting trained now, they're learning about other modalities that their patients are going for. And it's in sort of their best interest to know what the patients are doing, and maybe some of them have done a little research on it and realized, well, maybe that would be helpful for my patient as well.
And the research is there for acupuncture with cancer patients.
Yes, particularly in the first study related to cancer patients came out in the late 1990s. I think it was 1999, I don't remember exactly. But it was for chemo-induced nausea, or nausea and vomiting. So studies were done on that showed acupuncture was effective. And so that is sort of the door that acupuncture entered into the oncology world in helping out. There are also now better medications, Western medications that help with nausea. So between that and acupuncture, nausea has become less of a side effect.
I remember when I was pregnant, I was nauseous all the time. Morning sickness was morning, noon, and night, and I had acupressure wristbands.
Yes,
that would
and
go
you're pointing
on, that would help.
Very true, and I have to say, I went for acupuncture when I was pregnant. The same thing for nausea and a couple other things. But yes, there's a great point that many people might know of if they've gone on cruises and bought C-bands.
Yes.
That you could get at the local drugstore on Amazon. Those bands press on an acupuncture point that is very key to help nausea. I mean, there are other ones as well, but that's a really accessible one and easy one to put a nice bracelet on.
Yeah, I bought some for my daughter who gets a little seasick. So actually, here's the question. What would be the difference between the acupressure and the acupuncture?
The acupressure, which is something which was be not inserting a needle, right? It's something that's touching the skin but not going in. I actually use acupressure on babies and little children. So where I might touch a little tool to the different acupuncture points. And the reason that can be effective versus using a needle is because we say their energy is so much on the surface, right? You could just see a kid bubbling, right? Everything. Their emotions are on the surface. Energy is much more on the surface. So acupressure works nicely for them. Then there are some adults, same thing. Energy is much more on the surface. And so doing acupressure for these people, very helpful. Now the second piece to that with the acupressure piece is that I can put on, I mean, we'll show this a little later. I can put stickers on with little acupressure beads or a microscopic teeny tiny needle almost that presses on an acupuncture point, different ones on the body, even including the ears.
Right.
I call it acupuncture to go. It helps keep the acupuncture treatment going forward.
Right. And I remember when I went on my trip to London and Paris, you put them on my ears, and I was like, am I going to be able to go through TSA with these? And you said yes.
Yes.
Because for those, it was like a little piece of rice or something.
A tiny little ball, just like the
Right.
tip of a ballpoint pen with a little adhesive around
Yep.
it.
And let me tell you, it worked. It definitely works.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about this at one point when I was coming to you, but during the pandemic, how did you work with the clients of the Healing Garden? It just so amazes me how out of your way you went to make sure they got treated.
So, the pandemic threw all of us in a tailspin, personally, professionally, emotionally. So actually with a Healing Garden client, we came up with an idea that I could help them over Zoom or FaceTime. And you're like, well, how could you do that? There's a whole screen between you. You're in two
Right.
different places. And what I did was bring my acupressure tools, and again, I'll show you in just a little bit. I drive those over to their house, put them in their mailbox. And you remember when we had to wait 24 hours before touching our mail?
Right.
We did. So 24 hours before we would meet online, I'd drop them off at their home. They would then bring them in, and over Zoom, we would talk about what was going on. And they would say, I'm having some nausea, from the last treatment. And I said, great, so we're going to do a point here. And I would, with a pen, draw it on myself, hold up to the screen, and have, the patient, take out one of the acupressure stickers and stick it on themselves, and you're like, did I get it right? Does it go right here? And I'd be like, oh, a little to the left, or a little higher, a little lower. So I would have them administer their own acupressure.
That's fantastic.
Which was, it was really great. And even I at first was saying, is this really going to help? Is this going to be effective? And I would say I did 70 of these calls during that time.
Wow.
And, and most people were repeat people, and they were coming
Right.
back, they're like, I had less nausea, I had less pain, I slept better that night,
Yeah.
So it was great.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And we all have to embrace modern technology at some point.
Yes.
Because, everybody was Zooming.
Right.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, so let's talk about these little acupressure Band-Aids or whatever they are. And they can stay on for several days. I mean, for mine, when I had them in my ear when I was on my trip, I mean, they lasted a week.
No.
Which was great because you go into a different country during allergy time, and I have no idea what would hit me.
Yeah, what the seasons are going to be, or the allergens were probably going to be.
Right, exactly.
Right. So in general, these stickers can stay on, we say, 3 to 5 days, 7 days, as long as they're comfortable, and they're not irritating or bothering you, and for most people, they're fine with that. Over time, more than a week, they start to lose their effectiveness a bit. The body gets used to them a bit. But for most people, they wear them so comfortably.
Right.
So I'm going to
show us
everybody.
your tools here, what everything is.
Okay. So here on this black strip, there are a bunch of small little clear circles, and in the center of each circle is a tiny little ball. I'm going to turn that over so you can maybe see the ball on the back.
Oh, look at that.
So little tiny dot. These stickers, I'm going to turn it back over again. I use primarily in the ear, like so there's allergy points I would use in your ear, like you were just talking about. Then we have these. This is the casing for what we call a pressed tack. I mean, the name is a little bit more strong than what it really is. So here, why don't I take this out? So inside, we have a little sticker right here. So it's a little round Band-Aid with a hard plastic piece that holds in a microscopic needle. Now I'm going to turn it over.
Oh, it has a needle
where you can
in
see
it.
and you can barely see it. Like you could see maybe the balls or the dot, but this needle is so microscopic.
Is it a needle or just a little
It's actually a needle.
plastic? Oh,
but
I
it's
never
very
noticed it being a needle.
right. And so people don't feel. For that matter,
I've used those. I've never noticed it being a needle.
and actually,
You're going to
can
do it on my
yeah,
hands.
why don't I do one on?
Okay, so I have arthritis in my hands, and so she has treated my hands a few times, and yeah, she's used those, and I didn't even know they had a needle in them. Okay.
So I'll use one in a common point that I might use
You
for.
want to clean it first?
There we go. Oh, yep. So let's clean this off.
Yeah.
I have a little alcohol. Right here, and then this is for later on.
Okay.
So I'm going to just let that dry for a little bit. But I'll stick this on. And again, 3 to 5 days, 7 days. When I use these near the hands, typically they don't stay on
They don't
as
stay
long
on that long because I'm washing my hands a lot.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody's
And I'm
washing their
using
hands.
it, yeah.
But even like the next few hours after the treatment, a day or two, works fine. Okay. So I just simply put the sticker on. I take off the other little piece that's there.
Yeah. Okay, you can't even see that, can you? And I don't even know there's a needle in there. Really?
Right. If anything, you probably feel, if you touch it here, you're going to feel the hard
Oh, maybe a
plastic
little
piece.
bit. Yeah. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Blends
Acupuncture-
right in so people can't see it.
Right.
Awesome. And so that's going to help with the pain shooting down my hand?
Yes. We're going to get, and what we say is that we're going to get a little better blood flow or lymph flow in that area.
So if I'm going, like this past weekend, I went kayaking and holding the paddle, I rented, so it's not, I didn't have any padding on there, which I normally have to have extra padding.
Yeah.
Like on my bicycle, I have extra padding on the handles and stuff. So the next day, my hands hurt. So would I wear these too while I'm doing the activity or afterwards?
Well,
I mean, when would be the best time for me to treat it?
I would say a little bit before and a little after.
Okay.
During is probably might be a little harder. I don't know if you're.
Especially if I'm in the water.
Yeah, right. They do.
Hopefully I wasn't in the water,
Yeah.
luckily.
And actually, surprisingly, they do stay on very nicely, particularly after a shower. So warmer water helps the adhesive adhere even more, whether it's the ones in your ears or the ones right there.
Okay. Yeah, this does not hurt. I didn't even know there was a needle in there. All right, so what would you do with the needles?
So
I'm going to be the guinea pig.
yeah. So here are the needles. Maybe I can, or here's an example of a needle because there are different types. So they either come individually wrapped like this or in a pack of maybe like 5 or 10. I'm going to use a little hand sanitizer for myself.
I was commenting when Dorene first came into the studio that I didn't recognize her because I started going to her during the pandemic.
Right, we learned
I don't think I've seen you since the mask mandate is gone.
has lifted.
Yeah.
Right.
Because my allergies were taken care of in the spring.
Right.
Although it's, now is a big allergen time too, but I haven't
Right
had
for the ragweed.
Yeah, I haven't
folks.
had an effect yet, so
Yeah.
hopefully it stuck long enough.
Yeah. So this is a needle. I don't know if we can see here. This is a needle in a tube. Most acupuncturists here use a tube, a guide tube, to insert the needles. It just makes it quicker, a little quicker and easier. The needle itself, let's see, I'm going to take it out for a little bit, and I'm not sure if I hold
Right
up with a
against the
background
black, maybe.
here,
There you go.
if you can see. So this needle is maybe the thickness of a hair, of a thick hair. You know, it's nothing like the needles at the doctor's office.
It's a pinprick. It's less than a mosquito bite.
Yeah. And what I tell people when the needles go in is, you know, you might feel a little pinch, but then that should settle down right away. And once all the needles are in, you should feel comfortable enough to fall asleep, like you had mentioned
And I
earlier.
have fallen asleep in there. Yeah, it's very relaxing. It's very relaxing. All right, where are you going to poke me?
All right. So there's a nice point on this, on your hands, on your second finger here.
Yep.
Right there. This point, just to get more specific, is really good for this area of the body. Now, just another note about acupuncture. Acupuncture uses a system, so we're using a number of needles together. We're coming up with a point prescription. So we don't usually say, oh, this needle is for this issue, this needle is for that. But in general, we might be using a set of needles that address whatever condition you've got going on.
Right.
So, all right. So a lot of times with people, I might say, take a nice breath in and out.
Okay, I didn't even feel that. Can you see that? Poking out of my hand? But I don't feel it at all.
Right. Again, it's not like getting a vaccine.
Right.
It's not, you know, like that. It's not like getting, you know, like the bee bite. I'm thinking of the things that people get nervous about
Right,
when
the
they
bee
think of
sting,
needles and
or
being.
even mosquitoes, or
Yeah.
you know, or a cat claw.
Right. Oh my
I've
goodness.
had
no.
those.
Yeah. Nothing like that. And the needles will stay in, again, depending on the person, depending on what's brought them in, 10 minutes, 40 minutes, somewhere, you know, in between. Sometimes people get treated just on the front. They're laying on the table nice and comfortably. Then the whole time, and then some people will have those needles in. I take them out, I turn them over, and I do something else
Oh,
on the back.
right, okay.
Again, everybody's
So
different.
again, if it's a back issue, like a lower back issue, which is such
So
a big
common.
thing, so common, so they're lying on their stomach?
Actually, I can treat back issues with them laying face up.
Really?
Because they're, in acupuncture, the idea is that we have sort of the energy running all throughout our body,
Right.
like a highway system. And the acupuncture points are like the exits onto the highway system.
Oh, that's so great.
I used
Now
to,
we can understand it.
Right. I used to talk about this to little kids. So I
Mm-hmm.
imagine, like, you remember, you know, you're in the car and you're getting on the highway, and sometimes there's a traffic jam, right? And then everything slows down. Like that would be like a back pain, right? Everything
Right.
is all tight and stuck. So you can, a lot of times I can needle right in that area, but sometimes it's too sensitive, it's too much.
Oh,
but I
so you
can
have
address
to.
that by, there's like actually nice points at the ankle, there's some points around the hand and the wrist that are like sort of those exits onto the highway that get to the back.
Wow.
So it's, you know, still amazes me
Wow.
that this, you know, this is a medicine that started thousands of years ago. And it's been, you know, I would say improved as time has gone on, but clearly it's working because it's still around. It's, you know, it's like the longest continued practiced medicine that there is, or one of them. You
Right. And so way back when
Yeah.
it started, what did they use? They did pressure points?
There was more like pressure points. Also, herbal medicine was used as well. They did, you know, this was obviously manufactured in a factory, kind
Right.
of thing. But they were using other, you know, tools in nature, things like that.
So it started in China?
Yes. So acupuncture, and we call it traditional Chinese medicine, started in China, and then spread as like trade routes expanded, and you know, just like we got spices from different areas and trading goods everywhere, you know, the medicine and languages, you know, moved around. So, you know, Japan took acupuncture and they also have their own take on acupuncture and this type of medicine. Same with Korea, Vietnam, all, those areas in Asia all have their take on this type of medicine.
So kind of like a dialect with
Yeah.
a language, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. So what are some, not mentioning who clients are, or
Yep.
patients that you would call them, what are some of the biggest differences you've seen in people with acupuncture?
From when they come in the door
Yeah.
to when they're done
Yes.
with their treatment. So for pain, I will have people kind of walking in the door like this,
Yeah.
and then walking out the door like this.
Wow.
Or, like this, and then they're moving like that. Now, it's not a one-time
Right.
solves all. So when they come in, say, the following week, they might be still down again, but then
Then they're brought
they're
back
all right,
up.
right.
Yep.
And the level of pain and the frequency of the pain decreases over time. There are, women with menstrual issues and menopause issues that have lesser problems over time
Right.
because of that. Fertility, this is also something, this
Oh.
is an area that this medicine can be used in as well. And particularly when Western medicine isn't quite sure of what the fertility issue is, acupuncture has often been, helpful for there.
So
Don't want to
would
say it's a guarantee, but it's definitely.
So would a fertility physician refer them?
There are some fertility Western, medicine fertility clinics that have acupuncturists either on staff or in, the office, so they work in tandem.
Wow.
Which to me is the best. Let's bring together the strengths.
Right, and of course the women relax, and when you relax, you're a little bit more fertile.
Right, right.
You're not so tense and worried about it.
Right. And why not just be a little less stress going through a whole
Right.
process? Why don't I take that out for
Okay, but it doesn't. I don't feel it at all.
you? Just so you know. So I have my little biohazard container. Oops. My travel one.
Not even blood. No
No.
blood. She didn't draw blood. Wow. So what are the things that people, other than the needles, what excuses do you hear from people why they can't do it? Because this would be great for my father-in-law. However, I don't know. I can't get my husband to come
Right.
to acupuncture, so
A lot of people are afraid of the pain.
yeah.
Then, there are people who are skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work? I mean, that said, a lot of times we take some Western medicines and that doesn't quite work either.
Right.
But, right,
Yeah.
And I am
Everyone's
very
different.
supportive, of Western medicine. There are people who say, well, I can't lay on a table for that long. But there are ways also we can.
Oh, but you can put a pillow under their knees, you know.
And I have ways I can work with people to make it sure. Instead of laying on a table, people can sit in a chair and have acupuncture.
Right.
Needles can be taped so you can move a little bit. Sometimes people think they're just going to have to sit like a robot on the table. So there are different ways we can help, adjust or the way the acupuncture is given to make someone a little bit more comfortable.
Wow. Dorene, you have been a wealth of information today, and hopefully you've, kind of appeased some people's nerves when it comes to acupuncture. But there is also acupressure that you can use.
Yeah.
So I just want to really thank you for coming on the show today, and just to educate our viewers on what acupuncture can do for you, and it's not so scary, and the benefits of it.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Holly.
No problem. And so you can find out information about Dorene, her contact information, from the credits. It'll be in the credits. I'll also have it on my website underneath the Get Healthy with Holly episode. And I'd like to thank you all for watching today. And I'll see you next time on Get Healthy with Holly.